Section 5 of Dread Flame of Matana by Henry Hasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Cinda J.M. Section 5. He entered the shop and was startled to see a Rajak emerge from behind a counter piled high with silks and fineries. The black was tall, elderly, a bit stooped, with a nervous twitch at the side of his face. "Ah, sir, welcome to the humble shop of Thurlow. May I assist you in a selection? Some of these rare laces from Io, perhaps? Or these exquisite candelabra? Over 1,000 years old, sir, yet they have found their mysterious way here from the Demian temple of the ancients." Ketrik smiled a little, picked up the candelabra and set it down. "A fake, and so are you, Aranto. I recognize you now." "But not at first," Aranto grinned. "I think my disguise will do. Not as thorough as yours, of course," he added. "Where's Jal Thurlow?" "Back there, preparing the evening meal." Aranto's finely chiseled nose wrinkled appreciatively. "And a welcome repast it will be after our miserable desert fare." Thurlow had not spared his talents, and the meal proved to be excellent. Ketrik ate appreciatively, but in silence. Thurlow hardly touched the food, seeming perturbed over something. Only Arnaudo was his old self. More than that, his crisp manner, which Ketrik had noticed earlier in the day, was gone. He now seemed happy and almost jovial. As he kept up a running conversation, he told of haggling with one of the customers over a set of Venusian tapestries, finally getting twice the expected price. "And look at this." He held to the light a crystalline jar that adorned the table. "Would you look at it, Koshan? Vanadal, the nectar of the gods. An ancient vintage, too. I found it hidden away far back on one of the dark shelves. I am sure," he smiled slyly, "that our host can obtain more where it came from, so let us drink to this occasion." He poured the blue liquor into their cups. "Yes, Koshan, an occasion, that two such as you and I should find our way here." Ketrik smiled, barely touched the stinging liquor to his lips. When they had finished the repast, Arnaudo rose and excused himself, but stood a moment hesitant. "I must leave you now, and I may have no occasion to return here. I wish to thank you, Thurlow, for you have been most gracious. And you, Koshan. We have been helpful to each other." "Yes, Arnaudo, you more than I." "Then the debt is paid." With that, the black was gone, out into the night which swallowed him up. Thurlow sighed. "I hope he never returns. I do not like that one. If he is caught and it becomes known I harbored one of the Sorella here, even for a day, I only did it for you, Ketrik." "You needn't worry. He's a clever one. But I wish I knew what they were up to." "They'll fry on Devarjo's torture plates," Thurlow prophesied. Ketrik thought of his own fate if he were caught, but quickly put it out of mind. "What do you think they're up to, Thurlow?" The little Martian spoke slowly. "The Sorella? They're apart from other Rajaks. Treaties mean nothing to those fanatics. They wish to strike at Devarjo and—" He hesitated. "What better way to do it than through his daughter?" The Princess Piranha. Of course, that was it. A bold stroke, but just such a one as a society of Sorella would attempt. Ketrik realized now that some such thought had been hammering at his mind all the afternoon. He said eagerly, "Tell me about her, Thurlow. I caught a glimpse of her this afternoon." "You did?" "Yes, she visits the shops occasionally, always accompanied by a bodyguard. The palace guard has been doubled, too, since these rumors of the Sorella. I'll wager her father would be furious if he knew she had left the grounds this afternoon. But that girl has a mind and a temper of her own. So I've heard." "Has she been here long?" No, she flew down from the northern capital only a few weeks ago. That was against Fajajo's orders, too. I think he'll be sending her back soon. Ketrik remained thoughtful. He failed to see how Arnaudo and the others hoped to reach her. For a Martian to get beyond those walls would be a ticklish problem. For Rajak, it would be impossible. He heard Thurlow again. That's why I'm worried, Ketrik. Attention is being drawn to my shop. This afternoon, an elderly matron came in. I recognized her. She's been here before. One of the Princess Piranha's personal servants. Go on. Ketrik was listening now. Well, Arnaudo was in the front of the shop. He sold her some Ionian laces. Then I saw him speak to her in an undertone and hand her a folded note. He doesn't know I saw him. I don't like it, Ketrik. A note? Ketrik's mind was racing with the speed of atom motors. To be delivered to the princess, no doubt. Thurlow, tell me, does Piranha ever come here? She would never deign to set foot in this humble part of the city, but she has undoubtedly heard of my shop. That's it, Thurlow. I think I see their plan now. If you will promise to retire early tonight, I can guarantee that no word of this will reach the Emperor's ears. Thurlow would have promised anything. An hour later, all lights were out, and Ketrik stood in the darkened front of the shop where he could see the street but remain unseen. If his surmise was correct, he could thwart the plans of the Sorella. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have bothered, but now he thought he could turn it to his own advantage. The hours passed. He watched the slow climb of Demios across the sky. Its light scarcely touched this cringing little street. Once he saw the dull lights of a freighter descending and remembered that just beyond this district was the freighter spaceport. Occasionally, a skulking figure passed, keeping to the shadows. Once, the flash of a heat pistol came from a nearby alley, and a moment later, the sound of running feet. Still, he waited. He lit a cigarette, keeping the glow of it carefully hidden. He began to wonder if the princess would venture into this place after all. It seemed most unlikely. At this hour? It had been a crazy idea to begin with. He was clutching at straws. That note which Arnaudo slipped to the servant might have meant something else entirely. Ketrik dropped the cigarette, ground it savagely underfoot. Then, with a sharp intake of breath, he leaned forward, peering through the window. From the nearby corner, a dark vehicle had glided into the street. It moved swiftly and silently. It could only be one of the three-wheeled cars. It stopped across the street from the shop of Thurlow. For a minute, no one emerged, and Ketrik knew the occupants were surveying the shop. He drew back a little, then two figures stepped out, started across the street. One was a woman. Her steps were unhesitant, even a bit excited. Ketrik recognized the Princess Piranha even from here. The other was a man who seemed to be remonstrating with her. The fool, the little fool, Ketrik muttered, but at least she had sense enough to bring one of the guard. Events happened then with blurring swiftness. The shadows came from somewhere out of the darkness, seemed to glide toward the pair in the street. In a split second, they were upon Piranha and the man. Too late, the guard sensed the danger. He whirled, but in the same instant was sinking to the street with a Rajak dagger through his heart. The other Rajak had clapped a hand roughly over the girl's mouth, was dragging her back to the car. In those few seconds, Ketrik was tugging at the shop door. It seemed to stick. He cursed, wrenched it open, and flung himself into the street. His gun was out, but he saw it was too late. Piranha and the two assailants were already in the car. The motor was whining to life. Ketrik reached the car in two bounds. Just as it hurled away, he flung himself blindly at it. His hands managed to grip the rear wheel guard. He clung to it, arms wrenching painfully as he was dragged along. The car slowed, turning into the nearby street, and Ketrik managed to get his feet up. There he crouched precariously, leaning his weight forward as the car jolted through rough streets and alleyways. Again he cursed. He'd lost his gun back there. He didn't think they'd seen him, though. Piranha had fought like a wild Hella. They apparently had her under control now. probably administered a drug. Ketrik began to take notice of their direction. They were deep in the dark warehouse district. Suddenly his heart leapt. He knew where they were going. They intended to get Piranha out of the city through that secret canal tunnel. He doubted if there were a dozen men in this city who knew of its existence, much less its location. Then they reached it. Ketrik recognized the place, knew he'd have to act quickly. One of the Rajaks had gotten out, was leaning over, trying to lift the girl's limp figure down from the seat. Ketrik stole forward, put all his weight behind the blow, which landed at the side of the man's neck. It was a dirty blow, but this was no time for niceties. The Rajak crumpled, slid forward against the car. "What's the matter, Vranu?" The other was Aranto. Ketrik recognized his voice. Aranto came around the front of the car then and took in the scene. Ketrik was tense, but Aranto didn't move or speak, not for several seconds. Then he said slowly, "So, it is you again, Earthman." He was calling the terms correctly now. "I thought I had seen the last of you." Ketrik glanced at Piranha's unconscious figure upon the seat. His eyes flicked back to Aranto. "My debt is paid, Aranto. You said it yourself." With that, his limbs uncoiled, and he hurled himself forward. Aranto met his rush, sending out a straight jab as he allowed his body to sway aside. The blow was glancing, but powerful enough to send Ketrik off balance. Ketrik's lips went tight as he whirled back to the attack. He knew he had his work cut out for him here. Aranto seemed slim, but there was weight there, and he knew how to use it. He put it behind every blow. For a few seconds, Ketrik found himself parrying these blows, ducking and rolling and taking a few on the arms, which numbed him. He managed to get a few past Aranto's guard, but the Rajak took them too and pressed his advantage. Ketrik was satisfied to back away for a moment. His legs were still a little numb from crouching on the car. A crashing right came through Ketrik's guard, drawing blood from his mouth. He countered and missed as the other leapt away. Again and yet again this happened, with Ketrik missing almost clumsily. They fought in near darkness, and it was hard to connect with that swift-moving black body. "So, you would interfere, O crudely disguised one." Again Arnado's fist came through to send Ketrik reeling back, but his legs were less numb now, and he began to coordinate his footwork. His brain was lightning clear. Arnado laughed contemptuously, laughed with the joy of battle, and pressed forward, throwing more lefts and rights. They missed as Ketrik danced away lightly as a helicat. Then Ketrik threw a boxer's left, long and weaving, that found its mark. "That better, O haunter of dark places?" He followed it with a right that crashed against bone, and Arnado didn't laugh again. Slowly Ketrik took the initiative, refusing to give way now and throwing his long left to advantage. He used the other's feral eyes as focal point, aiming just below them. He sensed that the other was weakening. Aranto gave ground slowly, fighting back. His blows were still heavy, but now his timing was off, and Ketrik didn't give him a chance to regain it. Ketrik's own arms were becoming numb from stopping the other's blows. He shifted the attack to the stomach, and Aranto's guard dropped. A right came up that sent the Rajak staggering. Ketrik leapt in for the kill, lashed with a left that sent the black spinning half around. The right cross that followed immediately was the one that did it. It caught Arnado at the point of the jaw just below his ear. By the way he crumpled, Ketrik knew he wouldn't get up for some time. Ketrik stood there for a moment looking down. A roaring was in his ears. A vast tiredness came upon him. He wiped blood from his face and looked at his bruised fists. A sound came from behind him. He whirled. It was Piranha. She stood there, looking small but somehow not frightened, staring at Aranto's prone figure. She reached into her tunic and drew out a small electro. Before Ketrik could realize her intention, she aimed it at Aranto. He snatched the gun away just in time. "You'd kill him in cold blood?" "He's a Rajak, a member of the Sorella." "Oh, you realize that, do you? Well, listen to me. He fought fairly, had a dagger there in his belt, and could have used it. So he gets a break." She turned an angry face to him, started to speak, but he stopped her with a gesture. Quiet. Listen. From somewhere near came the sound of scuffling feet. Ketrik moved swiftly to a little metal door between two buildings. This was the door to the sewer, which in turn led into the secret tunnel. Presently it opened, and Ketrik saw the yellowish glow of eyes, Rajek eyes, many of them, perhaps 8 or 10. Ketrik stepped back. He gave a burst with the electro, allowed the beam to cut a frothing path very near the doorway. The black figures drew back. You get these two, and that's all. He indicated Arnautu and Verano. 2 of you step forward and get them. Quickly now. He gestured meaningfully with the weapon. 2 of the Rajeks crept out, watching him all the while. They seized the limp figures and dragged them back. Ketrik followed. All the way. Clear back into the tunnel. I'm letting you off easy. Be glad you don't get Vaho's torture plates for this night's work. He herded them all into the tunnel, then swung the pivoted door shut. A steady play of the electro beam fused the mechanism so that it wouldn't work again, ever. He knew they might use their knives, loosen the stone blocks enough to gain another entrance, but he didn't care about that now. He hurried back to the street, found Piranha still waiting. Her fists were clenched and her voice sharp. You take a lot upon yourself. Those were Sorella and should be turned over to the guard. Not a word of thanks, no show of gratitude. Ketrik let his own voice rasp. It isn't important. You were a little fool to leave the palace. Why did you do it? Then you know I am the Princess Piranha, and you dare to speak to me like that. She raised her fist, seemed about to strike him. Then a thought occurred. Rillan, where is he? What happened? Then she shuddered as though suddenly remembering. I suppose you mean your guard, Ketrik said with no attempt to spare her feelings. He's lying back in the street of the double moon with a dagger through his heart, thanks to you. Thanks to me, she whispered, all the spirit gone out of her now. I shall never forgive myself. He warned me, tried to stop me, even pleaded. And when I threatened to come alone, Ketrik said sternly, why should you want to come at all to this miserable part of the city? You're right. I was a fool. Occasionally I sent a servant to the shop of one Jal Thurlow to pick up a rare article that would never find its way to Mars by the ordinary routes. You understand? This afternoon my servant brought me exciting news. In his shop, Jal Thurlow had a single bottle of that perfume from the Demian Temple of the Ancients. Can you understand what that means? That rare, that glorious perfume. Yes, Ketrik could understand. He smiled at Arnautu's cunning. Women would give their money, their jewels, everything they held precious for a single dram of that perfume, which was so rare as to be almost non-existent. But, Piranha went on, it was to be smuggled away from Mars tonight. It was to go to the Princess Aladania on Venus. The note said that if I were to see Jal Thurlow tonight, I might persuade him. Ketrik felt suddenly sorry for her. She was almost in tears. It was a trick of the Sorella, he said, and Jal Thurlow knew nothing of it. As for the Demian perfume, my dear girl, I happen to know that the last of it was smuggled to Earth some years ago and sold for a fabulous price. Ketrik neglected to mention that he himself had engineered the feat. She smiled wistfully. You have saved my life, and I have learned a great lesson. I owe you for both. She suddenly removed a bracelet of Martian diamonds. Ketrik waved it away, and she frowned in puzzlement. Is it not enough? It was not nearly enough. What he wanted was to get beyond the electronic wall. He came near to hinting at it, but checked himself. No need to press his luck too far. He bowed elegantly. To have been of service to you, Princess, is reward enough in itself. She was impressed, insisted on knowing his name and where he could be reached. He gave her the information with seeming reluctance. She assured him she could make her way back to the palace alone. You shall be rewarded nevertheless. were the last words Ketrik heard as she drove the car away, and he smiled inwardly. He was jubilant, retracing his route through the dark streets. Darvaza would certainly send for him tomorrow, for he knew that Purana would tell her father of this. It was just past the midnight hour, and suddenly he remembered something. This was the hour. But even as the thought crossed his mind, the phenomenon came. It came as a greenish glow rising above the city center, spreading swiftly outward. As it spread like a blanket of palely pulsing light, a frightening malignancy came with it. Then it touched upon Ketrik, and he reeled. The cold light was all about him, surging through him. Tightening tendrils of it clutched at his brain. A vast singing was in his ears. He fought back, fought as his mind reeled upon a chaos of vertiginous horror. Those light tendrils tearing at his brain eagerly, hungrily. Here was Darvaza's weapon, and he knew it, even as he fell to the street to lie exhausted, his mind going away. Still, he tried to fight, knowing it was hopeless. An agony was in him, tearing at his fingertips and through every muscle, wrenching at his brain, seeking to tear it apart fiber by fiber. He felt his sanity going. It was being drained away as liquid is sucked through a straw. He laughed once wildly. He felt other light tendrils seeking hungrily all about him. With the last vestige of mental power, he remembered again a gibbering madman in a dark tunnel. Then the light was going away. It receded, rushing back upon itself, coalescing into a mass of greenish radiance that swirled and twisted angrily and tried to escape. Almost alive. As Jalthuro had said, Ketrik rose and stood swaying, his head throbbing as he watched it from afar. Now the spherical mass of it, deeper in hue and pulsing angrily, hovered in the sky just above Vajo's laboratories. Suddenly the sphere extended, became a pillar of pulsing light trying to leap away. And it leapt away, faster than light, swift as thought, hurtling through the outer reaches of space. Ketrik didn't stay to see more. He didn't need to. Even through the cold needle fires in his brain, he had enough faculty left to know that far out in space, in that part of the heavens, swam the planet Earth. Again, this night, Darvaza was testing the power of his curiously alive weapon. Ketrik reached the shop of Jalthurlo, found the jar of Vanadol, and downed enough of it to put him into merciful oblivion. End of section 5.